Hello, family, loved ones, and friends. Thanks for joining me today with another Tech Talk with Johnny Sanders on Truth and Life. And I want to say thank you for reaching out to me, sending me uh, good replies and feedback on the topics that I have shared with you guys thus far. And this topic that we're going to talk about today and discuss is something that has been inspired and requested by one of you. And I want to say thank you for sharing. Thank you for bringing it to my attention and just allowing me to, again, pour in more of what I've learned over the years, over 15 years of IT professional business projects and development. So this just gives me an opportunity to share more. So this has been an inspiration to me, and thank you for sharing. So you have inspired me to talk more about agile methodology, and I'll do more explaining what those phases look like, what's in the whole process, the whole methodology, just so you can have a better understanding. And we'll go on and get started. Oh, forgive me. Before we get started, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe, share. Let's get the word out. And we're going to just continuously grow this channel so we can help others in the IT spectrum and into business. And speaking of business, because of what you've shared with me in the comments and replied to me, I will be doing another topic on episode 20 regarding AI. So, as I've mentioned before, in this year, 2024, I've received my AI certification and digital marketing certification. So I'll share more in that episode 20. So look forward to seeing you there. Okay. Excuse me. So with that being said, let's talk about agile methodology. So as I've shared before, it's a software development process. It's a dynamic and flexible process that helps you have a better understanding, a better approach to project management. Okay, it emphasizes in collaboration with others, continuous improvement with processes, projects, uh, IT development, different iterative progress with all things with business. You can implement it in your business in all different phases. And it's designed to help teams deliver great quality, on time projects and produce a better service of efficiency overall for everyone involved. So, what's all involved with agile methodology? So, you have your planning phase, okay? And we'll get into the planning phase. You have your design, your development, your testing phase, which is very important because you're going to need users to test what you've developed and put into play. Then once it's test and everybody's happy with it, then you have your deployment phase. You'll have your review slash maintenance phase to make sure that everything that you have put into place actually works as designed. Okay. So agile projects are divided into smaller projects that helps you manage a larger project or plan or phase of that plan to basically help with the iterations, help with the interjections of things that need to be added to the project or developed. And we're going to talk about sprints as well. If you are familiar with Scrum Master functions with sprints. And in sprints, they basically share what they're going to do for that day as a sprint to achieve the longer marathon race, if you will. Okay, you got that? You got that? Okay, cool. So the planning phase. Okay, so the planning phase basically helps to define the project scope. It helps to define the objectives of what you're going to do, who's going to do what, and who's going to provide the deliverables of those tasks that are being assigned to them. Those tasks will be broken down by for each individual or department or specific team members, okay? And you basically want to create a user story. You want to plan it out, map it out of what it's going to look like, what's going to be the beginning, the middle phases, and the expected end. And if there's any product, any backlogs, you can address those as well. Backlogs are items that were planned to get done but just didn't have a chance to get done. And if it's feasible in the time frame that you have in the roadmap, then you will be able to address some of the backlogs. You won't be able to do them all, but you will be able to address some of them, especially if they're pertinent to your specific project. Okay, so that's part of the planning session, the sprint planning section. So the other part of that is collaboration with those team members that are going to be assigned certain responsibilities, if you will. So some of it you may have to negotiate time, basically the time frame that you may want someone to work on implementing an accounting part of it. That may have to be put in the middle or towards the end because they may not be ready or they may not have the resources to have it worked on at the time that you want it worked on. So that's where some of the negotiation of the plan and the focus of your plan will have to be basically just adjusted a little bit. But as long as everyone is in agreement to do the task at hand in the time frame, then you just work that out. And once you come to that agreement, great. You basically report that in your status report to the management team that is basically the stakeholders or management executives, whoever you're reporting to. So collaboration is very important. I believe in working well with others as a group because it's very hard to complete something that's on a large monumental status and scale, right? If you just have something very small and it only takes you, knock it out, knock it out. That's not an issue. But usually in projects there's more people that you have to depend on, so it's great to have a great collaboration to be able to share what you've completed, use their expertise, and bring in the changes that are necessary, that something that you may not have thought about. But that's where good collaboration, good leadership comes into play. Okay, and it's basically going to help you provide a good product that aligns with the overall product and project that you're working on. Okay. So within planning, you need to discuss a release of iterations. So what that means is you're going to put in your plan when you expect certain things to be released. And there's going to be iteration milestones because of, and we're talking larger projects in this particular essence, uh, because you want to be able to deliver your product, your content that is of value through an iterative and incremental state of the development. You want to be careful with making sure you add that to the plan so releases that are crucial can be identified and delivered in a successful state. So I want to share with you some of the um, planning release iteration steps in an agile setting, right? To, so you can be the best project manager, if you will, uh, manager as a whole. You're responsible for deliverables, right? So for a high level roadmap, this is one of the things I want to share with you is to define the product vision and goals. So you want to make sure everyone understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the expected end of when you're planning to have this project delivered for the business, and explain to them what those measurable goals would look like. When you accomplish measurable goal A, measurable goal B, measurable goal C, and so forth and so on, each one of those goals should have an explanation of what you're developing, and you'll know that it's finished once you get to that point. And then you can just do a minor test to make sure that, hey, it is working and has been completed. Okay. So you want to identify and prioritize the features. So as I mentioned, sometimes you may have backlog items that may fit into your project, right? You want to be able to create a backlog if there isn't one already, and a list of all of the desired features for that particular project, for that particular product. Okay. So that way you can have yourself in a good working element where you're not overworking yourself. You're trying to spend multiple hours, all hours of the day, all hours of the night, not taking good breaks. That's never good. Um, because you want to, now, and there's something else that I believe in, having a good work life, home life balance. You want to be able to work well, work smart, and take breaks, and be able to go home, not work from home after you've checked off and checked out of work. You want to be able to spend time with your family. You want to be able to have some downtime for yourself. And that's valuable and that's key for a growing person, for yourself. Okay. So one of the things in prioritizing is something called Moscow. This is a technique that I learned. It's a Moscow, M-O-S, cow, C-O-W. And what that is must have, should have, could have, won't have. And the value of this is identifying value versus effort in doing your work. That's why I'm saying have a good work home life balance. So that way you're not over committing to something, overworking yourself. Now, again, over the years of experience, I've learned to have a good rhythm, a good pattern of what it's going to take. Some days it may take you working a little bit longer to complete something, and that's fine. But you will have to get your rest at some point and refuel your body, soul, emotion, mind, and spirit. Okay? So keep that in mind. The other part of the planning phase is estimate effort and capacity. You want to estimate basically what is going to be required for you to complete this task or these tasks, using story points or even t-shirt size elements. T-shirt sizing uh, is a phrase that I learned from using AWS. We had to use t-shirt sizes, literally small, medium, and large. So that's what t-shirt sizing means when they talk about that. And what does that apply to? Like in on AWS and Amazon, using EC2 instances, it's a service. It provides a wide selection of instances in specific types to optimize what would work well, what would fit well in your use cases, right? Your projects, your products that you're working on. So depending on the type of product that you have, will determine if you're using small, medium, and large for using CPUs, memory, storage, network capacity, um, a whole spectrum of the network to see how your project, your product would work in the full capacity and flexibility that's been granted. Okay, so t-shirt sizes are very useful, and depending on the certain t-shirt size that you use, small, medium, and large is what you will also pay for. So if you don't need a large capacity, don't get it because you're using additional money when you may only need a medium. Okay. And if you scale up and down, that's fine. Whenever you get to the point where you actually need a large, then you move to that planning phase, if you will. Okay. So um, capacity planning, which I'm talking about with the AWS t-shirt sizing, it basically helps you assess the team's capacity that's needed. You use that to help with determining how many features are going to be needed to do deliverables on. So that capacity planning, you want to figure out early on, as early as possible, because that's going to help determine how much you're going to use, how much you're going to spend, okay, from a business perspective. So from that, once you get the capacity plan all straightened out, then you want to get a roadmap. The roadmap is going to be something that you decide on once you complete a certain task. That milestone, it may be a release one, release two, release three. It all depends on your project and what you are planning and want to be able to deliver to that expected goal of completion in your project. Okay, so that milestone, look at it also as a checkpoint to say, hey, I've been able to complete this successfully. Do a check, make sure it's working again as designed, as expected, and then you are able to move forward to the next phase, if you will. So you also want to define your release criteria. Okay, basically, it's a quality standard. Again, setting certain criterias and checkpoints to understand that what you've produced also is something that will pass the inspection, pass the test, the minimal test, that what you've designed, what you've developed is completed and will perform the task as expected, especially as you've communicated to the stakeholders, right? The stakeholders are expecting a certain product delivery. So you don't want to complete a certain task, a certain development, and say, okay, I've finished my work, my part is done, and pass it on, but it doesn't meet the standards or the requirements that the stakeholders have written and communicated and expected you to complete. So you want to make sure that it is done and completed according to that, right? So you want to basically make sure you have an acceptance criteria that once you check it, you give it to someone else to check, to say, oh, yep, it looks good. Yep, looks fine. Yep, that protects you, and it protects them, and it protects everyone within the project. So when it's time to give the full user interface testing and UAT, user acceptance testing, and going towards a deliverable in a project meeting to say, hey, we've completed this, it will show and give confidence to the stakeholders, the executives, the managers that you're reporting to, that this project functions as designed and it has good quality. Okay. Now, I want to say, let's talk about another phase in planning is iteration planning, and basically doing sprints. So often referred to as sprint planning in Scrum, focusing on planning the work for the upcoming iteration, the upcoming projects, however many weeks do you have it set out for? So you want to set the specific iteration goal that you're planning to basically have completed the work ahead of time. Um, you want to be consistent with your goals that has been expressed from, let's say, the project manager. Okay. So the project manager has a plan and they have set out the goals. You, as a iteration sprint planning, you want to make sure that what you're planning fits the same plan or in the same milestones according to what you have received and communicated back to the project manager, basically to ensure that all phases of the deliverables are achieved and achievable to the client, to the customer, to the business owner, whomever you're communicating to. And in that sprint plan, just like the project manager's plan, you want to make sure that you are prioritizing, when you get to that point, the backlog information. All of those things that were prioritized with the project manager, you're also having that in your plan, that once you get to this certain point, that you are addressing the backlog item as you communicate to the team and making sure that the team is in agreement and going to commit to completing these tasks in the appropriate time that you have agreed to, signed off on. Some people have sign offs that this is what you're going to do. Great. Um, if there are user stories, I've worked where we've had user stories on the whiteboard, sticky notes, sticky tabs, and you need to be able to break down those user stories into small, manageable action items. Okay, action tasks, to where you're able to have someone or somebody's plural to be able to address those tasks at hand, again within a reasonable time frame, and the quality of the work is there. Okay, you want to be able to give a good estimate of when you expect these tasks to be completed. Those, uh, let's say, the engineers or the developers, they get the tasks, they get the user stories, they get the backlogs, and they're looking at what's ahead of them and what their tasks are, right? So when they look at this, they have their already current workload, and they have to see, okay, what else can I work on in the same time frame or within the time frame. So they will basically look at their current workload and their project timelines and say, okay, you know what? I'll be able to start working on this at this point in time. And you give them that date of when you're expecting to start. And it's going to take me maybe a day or two, maybe a week to work and develop and complete the task that has been given. So once they've completed the task, they can have, again, a goal and a milestone date to say that I'll be completed at this point in time. Now, if they're able, now this has been my experience when we've started doing some development. We had the task and the roadmap that we already had set. We were able to complete development on specific projects and applications for these specific clients ahead of time. We were able to test it. Great. We had a cushion, right? We can start on this new next task ahead of schedule. So we didn't have to rush so much. So we can take our time comfortably and provide quality work, quality development, and we're able to meet the task ahead of schedule. So that way we could deliver the product and say, hey, we've finished it ahead of schedule. You can take it and start doing possibly some testing, additional testing ahead of schedule. So the sooner you're able to get done with it, the better, because there's always going to be something that comes up that you didn't expect, that you didn't foresee coming. A bottleneck, somebody gets sick, that you depended on, somebody has to take off work. You can't foresee that kind of stuff. Um, and that is that happens, and when it does, you work with it. It's like you get that information, you report that information, say, hey, we're not going to be able to start on this date because of this reason. You be transparent and share that with them. Don't try to, oh, I'm gonna fix it, oh, I'm gonna be in trouble. No, there's no you're going to be in trouble anything. It's best to be as transparent as possible and share what's really going on, so that way everyone knows and everyone is still accountable for it. And again, I've worked on projects where uh, a tornado came and shut down all the power, all the grids. We weren't able to complete work, and this happened over a few days. Even though we had backup generators and stuff, I mean, it literally shut the whole grid down. So we couldn't do any work at that particular time. And it was communicated and explained. We had to use our phones to communicate, and just because we couldn't use our computers to just communicate, and Microsoft messaging, couldn't use that. We couldn't do any type of Zoom, couldn't use that, except for on our phones. And so that's where we were using the phone to communicate where we were, and just communicating out as much as possible to the business. If it was an outside client that we was working with, we communicated with them via phone and let them know. And if they were in the same region, they were experiencing the same thing as well. So they knew. But just being communicative was very important. Um, and just just sharing where you are, what has happened, what is going to be the next step. So in creating the next step, um, once power came back on, create a task board. Okay, the task board basically let everyone know where we were physically, digitally, and shared um, all the tasks that still need to be done, still need to be completed, the progress where we were, what's on the milestone, the goal to be expected to do, um, who's going to be working on those tasks still. Depending now, we're in rush mode, we're in crisis mode, right? So everyone is coming back on board. Everyone has been pushed back. Everyone is trying to get back on the task that they were working on, and some of the deadlines, timelines had to be readjusted because of what has happened or had happened at that particular time, and when we expected it to be done. So we provided updates. And so um, until we were able to get caught up in this particular case with the tornado, um, what I recommended was for everyone to give a daily update, a daily status of where we were on the task, and if there were any further risks that they received or foreseen coming up because of this, right? So we identified who, again, was going to be dependencies, identified who was going to be someone that is working on a task that we needed help with, or we were dependent on group A to complete it so group B can work on it. So then group C could also be able to do their task. So group C couldn't work on their task until group A completed theirs. So you follow me? So identifying those tasks and identifying who's going to be doing those tasks, when they're going to be able to get to do those tasks, was a key factor. And that help also with risk management. So, was it going to cause a potential risk in the development phase, in the mitigation phase? Um, According to your strategic plan, you basically address the roadmap, the risk that has been laid out. And again, being agile and flexible, those are the things you will need to be able to do in an agile methodology mode, because when things come up that affects your plan, you need to be flexible enough and be thinking mentally enough to be able to adjust your behavior, adjust your schedule, adjust the roadmap even. Okay? So just think on that while we go to the next segment. So, in this next segment, we want to talk about agile planning best practices, okay? Because with agile, there's a lot of planning that has to take place in order for you to fulfill great development, right? So we talked about collaborating with your planning. You want to basically get everyone that is going to be involved in your project, keep them engaged in it, and make sure that they are part and feel a part of the entire team, right? You want to include the developers, the testers, the stakeholders, everyone that you're going to need, engineers, architects, DBAs, to make sure that everyone feel included, and be transparent and share with them that, hey, we are fostering this project so that everyone can contribute and have an idea of what we're doing. And if you have any ideas on a better way of doing what has been laid out, welcome the feedback. That's good collaboration. You want to have regular reviews and adjustments um, in your plan and planning with these different stakeholders and people that are part of the development phase of it, right? You want to conduct regular reviews, sprint reviews. You want to have weekly meetings. Depending on the project at hand, you may need daily meetings. Okay, that's what Scrum Masters are for, and that's one of the things that they do is follow up with each other every morning. They'll stand up and give an assessment of what they've completed yesterday, where they stopped working, what they're planning to do today, and what's planning to do tomorrow. So that's one of the things that helps with them to have continuous improvement in their communication, in their delivery, in their feedback, and even help with making sure that they are working according to the plan at hand. Okay. There's something called time boxing, which is basically a fixed duration. Um, it's a fixed duration to help maintain a consistent rhythm. Remember, I was talking about having a good rhythm when you're working and moving and you're working with other people. So this helps keep things um, moving frequently, and deliverables are basically completed in its appropriate time, if you will. Okay. So the time boxing helps teams stay focused on achieving basically the iteration goal within the set time frame, so that everyone again is working in a nice, smooth rhythm. And I love that part. Um, so when you're working in a good, smooth rhythm, everyone knows it, everyone feels good about it. And as soon as something comes up, if there's a bottleneck, something forces you to hit the brakes, everyone knows it. Everyone can feel it because the rhythm has been interrupted. The task flow stopped. The communication, wait a minute, I thought we were going to be working on task E, F, and G. Wait a minute. I didn't get that email. Let me check. Let me see what's going on. Something stopped the flow. Something stopped the progress. Something stopped the pattern. And from that point, the communication starts going out. Are we okay? What's going on? I didn't receive a message. I didn't receive the green okay button. I didn't receive any feedback according to the last task that we're working on. And that helps, which is a good thing. Don't think it as a negative thing, because again, you want to be able to get in a good rhythm. Okay. And when you're out of rhythm, that's what the collaboration and having other team members are for, to help you identify when something's wrong, something went off kilter, something stopped the momentum, something stopped and inhibited the rhythm. You have your project managers. Hey, check on the development team, check on the architects, check on the developers. Check, 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 check. So you'll find out what's going on. And once you do, then you address it. All right. Whatever the issue is, you prioritize and then do another rescoping of the project. You have to put some type of management um, prioritization in place so you can continuously complete the task at hand and provide um, the necessary change requirements. There's always change management that happens in the project, and that's when things happen in place where, again, in change management, you identify that something happened and you have to make a change. And what you do is identify change management numbers, give it a title. Hey, change management number one. Um, Script did not work. Script stopped working. A new version needed to be updated. Put that in the log. That's what the change needed to be done. And you provide the change management. They'll look at it. They'll approve it and say, okay, what's the workaround? What's going to be what we're going to do going forward? Well, because script A stopped working, we're going to use an updated script for B. And we're going to include a script for C. So that way B and C will be in place as the the product going forward. Approve it and keep it going. And again, that helps you stay flexible um, and to accommodate the changes necessary as you're sharing and communicating the overall agile methodology. Again, agile, you have to be flexible in moving multiple products simultaneously, right? And you want to have good, clear communication. You want to be able to communicate to project managers, stakeholders, um, maintaining a good communication with them. Again, you may have to have weekly meetings depending on the project. You may have to have bi-weekly meetings or monthly meetings. It all depends on the project, the level of status that you are, uh, that the project is needed, right? I worked on a project where um, I had weekly project meetings with the peer members that I was on, with the engineers, with the architects on a weekly basis. I had bi-weekly meetings with my uh, executive manager to let him know the status of where we were going and how we were doing. I had a monthly meetings with the top executives and the top stakeholders to say, hey, this is what we've been able to accomplish. We're expecting to have these deliverables deployed with your approval. If they approved it, then that went into an approval process. If they didn't approve it because of certain tasks or items and basically information that they've received on their level, that maybe there was a change in shift in what we were going to do next. Okay, so they would give us that information. Let's say we were going to put in Microsoft Azure for this month, and we're already set, go phase, right? The executive manager in this particular case, um, they received word that they wanted to go with moving forward with the AWS project that had been on hold for past months. So this month, they wanted the engineers to move forward with moving that in place because we had completed that work, but it was put on hold for whatever reason that they said they wanted to put it on hold. So now there's a shift. And we had to change the roadmap because Microsoft Azure, they wanted to wait 2 months, not 3, but 2 months down the road, that we would address this in the board meeting, on the monthly board meeting that we had at that point in time. So that was put in the parking lot. It was ready to go, which was great for us. So all we needed to do was do the go button because the UAT testing was done. And so we know it functioned and flowed the way we wanted it to go. And we did a smooth shift with AWS. Was able to put that project in the plan to do another retesting to make sure that everything still was going to flow and function the way that we had completed it the few months ago, and that it still functioned well. And if there was any changes, that's the other thing, that may have been added to it. A certain department may have wanted certain files to come from uh, database number 2 because it's closer region versus database number 1. So that change needs to be moved where their information, their files, their data came from database number 2. Databases, Microsoft SQL, relational databases, um, DynamoDB, it all depended on what was basically established, or even an S3 bucket. If certain information was put in an S3 bucket and just used as a holding spot until certain processes took place, then that needs to be basically coded for everyone to move forward with that from that perspective. So that helped with the planning, and having that all of those perspectives put in place so that when the release iterations from the stakeholders were put in place and they were able to see and understand and communicate, uh, and once they was able to see that the product that we expected to have completed in the time frame that we said that we was going to be completed, we were able to deliver high quality products um, in the incremental time frames that was allowed for us to complete it in. And we had set clear goals. We had clear prioritizing of the work, who was going to do the work. We had clear written communication and estimation of the effort that it was going to take by who's going to be responsible for it, the time frame, who's going to be engaged in it, the matters at hand. Um, Review and improvement process was basically put in place. So everyone a part of the Agile team process could basically manage the project and be a part of the project efforts uh, to provide good quality work. And basically, if there was any change management requirements, those items were put in place to help everyone involved to be able to approach the Agile project in a good, mindful way. So that way, everything was prioritized. We were able to ensure that the final product was in line as closely as possible, if not specifically exact, according to the requirements, business requirements that was basically laid out to us. Okay, so next I want to share with you about responding to change over following a plan. Responding to change over following a plan. So again, when you have a plan, every plan that you put in place, you want to have something put in place to work towards. Okay, so in this plan, the other thing I would say that you need to be flexible in your plan, because especially when you're dealing with multiple projects, multiple people. Uh, Agile is very good for this and it welcomes changes. And these changes could happen at any stage. And you want to be flexible enough in your project so you can ensure that the final product remains relevant to what the business requirements were stated. You want to increase the ability to adapt to new information as possible. If something happens in the market, if something happens with technology, whatever, something happens and the customer may think of something along the way that they didn't think about in the beginning. That has happened to me before as well. You need to be flexible to embrace that change. You need to be able to take the agile methodology and um, use it to the best ability to accept the changes and the requirements, even late in the development process. I've gone into projects where we completed everything as the business required, everything perfectly to the T. When I say perfect, everything was there. And the business, now this was marketing, where they were thinking of different ways to receive information sooner or according to for a specific product, and they had different products. So they wanted to be able to receive certain information on those products at a certain phase so they can know if they should continuously use this product or make a change once they got to that point. And if they don't see the numbers where they want it to be, at that point, they want to be able to add incentives for the client, for the customers, for the consumers to be able to possibly use their products going forward. And so that had to be put in place. That was not part of the original business requirements. It was like, okay, well, this has been put in place. So negotiations, okay? So what we negotiated was, okay, since you're just coming to us toward the end of the project, allow us to put the product in place. We will fulfill our our responsibility, our goals, and let's use this project as slash B. So that way, everybody wants to receive credit. All right. Everybody wants to look good and have known that they've done a good job. Okay. So we wanted to still look good. We didn't want it to look like we failed because we didn't. Because when people and management and stakeholders and business executives, when they start looking at what happens from a paper perspective, they're looking at A's and B's and C's and D's. In football or basketball and sports, they're looking at X's and O's on paper. They're not in the thick of things to know what really happened, to know what didn't happen. They just looking at the paper and say, okay, everything looked good. Oh, something happens at this point. What happened? They didn't complete it. Oh, bad marking on this particular deliverable team, right? And that's not fair. So to make sure that everybody still is on the same page, still shows good quality work, still shows the work that was delivered on time, and then show an adjustment, project B, that pertains to this project. We're going to deploy the project and the product as designed, as the business requirements, and then as an addendum, we're going to basically do project B to complete the new requirements, an additional requirements that's going to help better perform. Now this makes everyone looks good because the business get what they're looking for, and the development team is able to complete the additional task items that wasn't originally provided to us. Okay. And from that, we were able to get approval from the business. They were pleased with it. They provided us great feedback as they were using the product as designed. Some things that they were looking for, they made little notes as things going along the way. So that way, when because we're in the maintenance phase, right, of the project, the review and the maintenance phase, we're wanting to see how the users are interacting with it and how uh, they perceive that the product is for them. Okay. That works within the framework of agile methodology, the whole life cycle. So that way, nobody's pointing fingers at anybody. Nobody is complaining or saying somebody's at fault of not delivering or producing what was expected or having a bad feeling from the business, or they didn't like the way that business team did us, they threw us under the bus, none of that. Within the life cycle and understanding this and having that understanding and feedback is very positive, and you want that. You want to be able to keep that. You want the feedback of the business and the business users. You want to be able to say, hey, from a business user, we would like to see this as well, because guess what? That means they're going to request your service, your department, your development again, to add additional development to that particular product, which means more work for you. And it's a continual process, but you're making the business, you're making the department, you're making the company better as a whole. Okay. So once you get that feedback and you start working on it and you start doing breakdowns. So Agile helps you break down the project again in small, manageable iterations to help you with the planning continuously, the development of what additional work that was needed, right? So you may have to have um, different people, different elements within that particular project added to your project, your development process that wasn't there initially. Okay, so initially you may have had one developer, two developers. If you have the extra resources, the additional resources, and you want to expedite the time frame, you may need three or four developers all helping in different phases to make sure that it gets done quicker, and additional set of eyes on it, which always help you when someone else is able to help look, foresee what you're working on, what y'all working together on as a team. And again, creative minds, creative ideas. It helps when someone else is able to look at it and give you um, maybe a different perspective if they're working. So for me, I had developers in the United States. I had developers in India. Okay, I had developers um, that were, excuse me, in Japan, in China, and of course, there's different time zones, right? So I would give certain tasks to each one of their locations, so that way, when the American developer was sleeping, someone in China, someone in Japan could still be working on the task at hand, so that we can have that product delivered in a swift matter of time. And it looked like, man, y'all worked overnight to complete this. Well, that's where teamwork comes into play. Okay. Having a good team and teamwork and communicating to that team, this is the task at hand. I need everyone's input. You all are good at what you do. I need you in America to work on this. I need you in China to work on this. I need you in Japan to work on this, and communicate that so all three individuals know that each one of them are working on a specific task, and each one of them, their task is important and valuable, and I need that input and work from each one of them. The next day, the next 2 days, we get it back. I have testers to test it. It works well. I can then go back to the manager, the business manager, and say, "Hey, guess what? I know we said that it was going to take maybe 2 or 3 weeks. We've been able to do it in 2 or 3 days. Can I get some of your users to test this for me? And let's see what it looks like." We've tested it on our end. We want to make sure that it meets the standard that you guys were looking for. They tested. They were pleased with the product. They was happy with the swiftness of the work. They couldn't believe that what they asked for was able to be produced within 3 days of the time frame. Now, going back to me, having that agile methodology experience came into good hands and good play because I also knew my team. I also knew who was working on what. I knew my team members were good, and not to overwhelm each one of them or taking one to try to complete everything. Hey, I used my developers that were in 3 different parts of the world: America, Japan, China. Okay. And that helped to complete the task for everybody. Everybody was able to get a pat on the back. Everybody was able to get a thumbs up. Great job. We were able to collaborate and keep the project moving with cross functionalities, and helping with communicating with my developers and team members. And it allowed us to be able to produce what was necessary and needed in an agile functionality, um, across the world, across the spectrum, and ensured that everyone was in line. The agile methodology helped to make sure everyone was in line to contribute and perform the task at hand that was necessary in a short period of time. And that was a great, great project experience for me. And what it taught me was to always be mindful of your team members, where they are located, their different time frames, time zones, because I don't want to overwhelm an individual and have them working all hours of the night. That's not fair, in my opinion. I'm not being respectful of their time as a manager, so I don't do that. I look at the different time zones, the different skill sets of everyone that's involved, to figure out who can do what in their time zone and their allotted time with the work level that they have, and then move forward responsibly and make sure that everyone is in agreement, everyone knows who's doing what, and we move together as one unit in rhythm for the business, for the tasks at hand. Okay? So let's talk about design and execution. So when you're developing products, for different companies, different business, you want to have incremental phases to make sure that you're not just creating and developing one long, especially for developers, one long string of product, and once you finish, like, okay, I'm done. No, you want to make sure that certain development is done in incremental phases to make sure that it's good quality. Okay. You want to focus on delivering functionality components in each iteration. So let's say for fun, you have a water pistol, water gun, those soakers, okay? You want to make sure that you have the right springs, the right little plastic triggers. You want to make sure that you have enough water holders, the syringe. You want to make sure that when you squeeze, there's going to be enough pressure. Okay, you want to make sure you have a nice nozzle on the front of it, so that way it shoots out far. Or you can change the nozzle to make it a spray. Okay, you want to make sure that it's a good, fun color for the kids. Nobody, you don't want to just be black. You don't want to be just green. You don't want to be just brown. You don't want to look just like a military gun. No, these are fun soakers, so kids can feel like they're having fun. So you want vibrant colors and something fun to play with. Okay, so that helps with taking the time of having daily meetings, daily discussions from a Scrum Master perspective, uh, having a task board. You may have different versions of of certain controls. You want to have version controls in your development for sure. Okay, um, but different versions as far as ideas. Um, iteration one, iteration two, iteration three. This would look good. This soaker gun, this is a short one for kids that are younger and smaller, so you make it a smaller gun. For kids that are a little bit older and bigger that need something or want to feel bigger and fun for them, you want to give them a bigger soaker. That's fun for them, but in the agile methodology, it helps with you staying flexible and adaptable to the approach with the different designs, the different styles, the different sizes, um, and just getting ready for the different changes. In each iterative uh, evolutionary process that allows teams to improve the products that they're working on. This happens, and it helps with having different iterations, so that way somebody just doesn't create this water soaker gun, and it's just their idea, and it's like, well, I thought it'd be good for this. Well, what about if it falls or if it drops? Did you think about adding any rubber pieces at the tips, on the ends, at the bottom, so that way when it hits the ground it doesn't crack or splash? Oh no, I didn't think about that. Well, it would have helped if you would have just taken the time to show us what you've been able to create thus far, because that's what Sally was thinking, that from a safety perspective, you want to make sure that if it falls, it doesn't crack or break. Uh, Jim was thinking, how much pressure are you going to push out? You don't want to push out to make it too powerful, too hard, because you don't want to injure anybody. Oh, yeah, because I got the way I designed it, I have the water just skeeting out. Well, how much water? How hard? Well, it's going to come out pretty hard. Well, we don't want it to come out that hard, because it's not a pressure washer. Okay, it's something fun for the kids, right? Even if it's teenage kids, you want to be able to have those ideas shared with your fellow developers, so that way again you can produce a great product. Okay, so Uh, in agile methodology, I'll talk about it from this perspective. So, do you know what waterfall methodology uh, is some people still use it, but not a whole lot. But some people still use it because it has it's one step after each other. So you have step one, specifications. Step two, design. Step three, development. Step four, deployment. Okay? And it goes in a waterfall, in a step, just like this waterfall. And it steps down. That system methodology, it still works, but for slower, smaller programs or projects. And basically, you have to wait on the next person. You have to wait on the next person. You have to wait on the next person. With agile design, you still have specification, design, development, and deployment, but you will have a linear of, let's say, 5 projects, all have specifications, all going to the design framework, all in development, all at the same time. You need a team of developers to be able to accomplish this. You need a team of project managers, a team of engineers, maybe DBAs, architects, whatever you're developing. You're going to need a team, and you have these 5 projects. These 5 projects are going into place, are going into production, are going into development all at the same time. Now, you may have to stagnate the time frame, which is part of it. They may be working on the same time, but the beginning of the first 2 weeks of the month, you work on project A. You start project B at the end of those 2 weeks within that month, right? And you may have project C working at the same time as project A because they're similar. You have them in different names. The same person, the same engineer, the same developer may work on project A and C at the same time. He or she knows the name of it. They're going to do the same thing to project A as they do to project C, and they're just working it within their time frame, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's the way that gets developed. So after the idea of this goes into place and the team brainstorms for development, it gets conceptualized, and then they think of the solution as a developer. The agile methodology moves into development phase more freely, more comfortably, in a way that the developers are able to take ownership of the products, of the task at hand, and within the software development lifecycle, which includes the UX, UI design, user experience design. This is something that is included in and is worked with and worked out with the engineers, the software architects, the coding for the developers. Um, it helps with the overall objective when they are looking at the task at hand, what's next, what's feasible for each one of them to be able to make the product be user friendly, intuitive, and definitely meets the needs of the business requirements at hand for that particular end user when we're talking about the developers and the UI, user interface, UX, user experience. We want to make that as designed for and easy for the user when they start using it. Um, Making sure that from a developer's perspective, creating a journey, a map, roadmap wireframes, prototypes when need be. Um, when it gets to a certain completion phase of it, it may not be all the way complete, but most developers, when they're developing their work to a certain status of completion, and start doing some testing to see if it's going to work and going to function and going to flow. Ah, there's no errors in the coding. Ah, okay, okay. The string worked well up to this point. Great, it worked. So they do their own little self checks as well. They may have to redefine specific designs um, with their development and interface, but that's part of it. You know, they'll work and get to a comfortable place where they feel that according to the business requirements, this is what I've been able to complete and deliver to you. I've tested it on my end. Please test and check to make sure that the code is right, the development is right. And I've done code reviews over the years many times. Um, and sometimes they would get it perfect. And sometimes it's like, oh, you forgot something. And I would catch it. And it would be something, most of the time, something small or simple. And most of the time, what I found is they were rushing. They had many tasks on their plate and they just accidentally missed something. And so, because I knew my team and I knew that they had a lot of deliverables on their plate, what I would be able to do is slow down enough to where I would go through the code, I would do the test, I would do the checking, and make sure that I had the requirements in front of me as well. So as I'm reading the requirements, I'm looking for an expected approach from the product. I'm expecting the finished product to work and function as the requirements state that they were expecting, that they're looking for, that they want. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. It's important for you to make sure that you manage that part of the development phase. Okay. So continuing with development, you want to make sure the aesthetics are in place and pleasing to the functionality of the product, right? You want to design visual elements, style guides, interactive components, mock-ups, specific details of user interface designs that would be a clear blueprint for developers. And I say that because you never know who's going to help you with your design and development. It may be the work may initially be given to Helen, and then Helen may have to pass it off to Jim. Jim may have to pass it over to Frank. You just never know. So you want good, clear blueprint designs and development. So whoever picks it up could have a good understanding. They may ask questions or two, but at least they have a good framework and a good mindset of what the task is, what the request is, what the ask is. Okay. So, from a software architecture perspective, you want to make sure that you define the overall structure of the framework from a software development lifecycle system. You want to design the framework as best possible. That's going to, again, meet the needs of what the business requirements are. Um, Make sure that you, as an architect, you're selecting the appropriate technologies, right? You want to make sure if it requires Microsoft services, that you use Microsoft products, Microsoft Azure. If it requires AWS, you're going to use AWS S3 buckets in the Microsoft services that are provided and appropriate for that particular project. You don't want to be using something that they didn't ask for. If they didn't ask for Oracle storage, don't use Oracle storage. Uh, if they've agreed to a certain product and technology, and they've agreed to it because of a certain price point, you stick with that. You stay with that product that the business have signed off and agreed with, that the stakeholders have signed off and agreed with. There's a, they've gone with it for a specific reason. I've worked with many products and on different projects where when I received the project, the technology was already chosen. The software was already chosen. There was a project that I worked on for Docker containers. We were going to have to work and implement Docker containers. We was going to have to work with Hadoop and work with big data framework. And we were going to necessarily need to use TOGAF framework uh, as technologies, as the framework of working, keeping track of the deliverables. So it was already set for me. I had to use what was given to me, what was already assigned, what was already purchased. Okay. So sometimes that happens, but you as the architect are in a good, flexible, again, agile functionality to be able to make sure that you're able to provide the service that they're requesting, whether it's something that's going to be scalable up or down, robust. You want to maintain an architectural status that support the current situation, um, the current requirements, whether it's current or future requirements. You want to be able to maintain that. So when it comes to coding and development, as far as development phase, you want to be able to transform design architecture into a working software development, right? You want to be able to write and review code to where it's understandable, different versions, keeping track of that, implement features, integrate components, follow coding standards and best practices. So again, it doesn't matter who picks it up, they're able to pick it up and utilize and take off from where you left off. Okay. So now we want to get into testing and evaluation of the phase in the agile phase, right? This is a good fun part because that means you're almost done. And I like getting involved with the testing phase with the users. Um, from their perspective, I like to see their faces when they see the new development, they see the new application that they're getting ready to use, they see the new product that we've been talking about for weeks and for months. And now it's time to utilize what has been talked about so much. So in this phase, you basically want to do a review and test the completed work that is at hand to ensure that it meets the specifications of the business requirements that has been provided to you, right? We want to make sure it's good quality, it's efficient, it's effective, and the type of tools you use to check that it worked. You may have some sprint reviews, retrospectives, some testing frameworks, user acceptance testing frameworks, as well as the actual individual people. Okay, you definitely need and want that. All right. So, from an agile perspective with testing, um, you want to make sure that the integration testing throughout the software development lifecycle is followed. You want to make sure that there's a continual um, feedback, response, collaboration of the efforts that is involved. So that way, the developers can have an idea and know that, yes, check, check, check. The user liked the phase A, the user liked phase B, the user liked phase C, the user liked phase D, and so forth and so on. And so from a developer, you get that comfort level. you get that comfort of knowing that, yes, what I've designed works. the the user is happy, the testers are happy. You get feedback and provide feedback to the product owners, the business managers. They're all happy and pleased thus far of what the feedback is from the testers. Okay, um, you ask them how do they feel. You may have a survey that you provide where it's like, is the quality good? Is high quality? Is it delivered according to specifications? Is there anything missing? Is there anything you would like to add? And again, we're getting to the after it's deployed in the review maintenance phase. That's part of it. Okay. So some of the key principles with agile testing is continuous testing, continuous testing it in different phases. And sometimes uh, we joke uh, on the development side of it. We want you to test it to try to break it. Okay, not literally, but sometimes literally. We want you to try to test it in a way that you are comfortable that it's going to function as designed. You want it to be carried out as continuously throughout the process of the development cycle, that every time you go to this button, it works. Each and every time you push the button, it goes in the place where you want it to go. It pulls the reports that you want it to pull. It delivers the specific uh, data data cycles, data elements that you want it to deliver. And you want to check for any types of uh, defects, if you will, that may be reported back. And if they are, you share that with the developers and say, hey, I found this defect. I found it came back doing this, and we don't want it to do this. Um, and you provide those feedbacks to the developers, and then they're like, oh, okay. I wonder what caused it to do that. They'll go back and look into their coding and see if it was something that um, maybe a glitch where they can put something when when the request is asked to go left, you go left, and if statements they may put in there so that they keep it hard coded and blocked so it doesn't go right. If the user may put in the wrong code, or I mean the wrong request, I'm sorry, the wrong request. If so, the code knows and understands that regardless of whether it must respond to these specific words and elements to retrieve the data. If anything else, kick it back and send a message back to that user, improper request, something to that effect, right? And so again, sometimes you may need a collaborative effort to make that happen when you're getting that feedback, or if the developer developed it according to his or her understanding, they may have to ask, hey, Helen, what do you think about this? Bill, what did you think? Did you think this was built according to these specifications? I read it like this, but are they meaning something else? Okay, and that's when you get your feedback from other people, other developers, co-partners, peers, and even going back to the business and say, hey, we designed it according to what we have read according to these business requirements and these specifications. Did you mean something else? And they may have used a word that means a different functionality for them on their side. For a developer, retrieving means retrieve. And for them, retrieving may just mean you're going to pull a document and just review it. Okay. So they may have retrieved too much data, and all the business user may have wanted to just retrieve a portion or a specific element. So that way you can just basically keep going. Okay. Again, according to the business specifications. So you want to get that feedback. You want to make sure that iterative incrementations are being developed with the business. And if there's any automations that need to be done and put in place, you put those in place as well to make sure that everything is covered. You have your efficiency. Automation is good. Providing good automation, uh, providing good continuous integration with automation is good. It helps to reduce the human element, the physical element, the business trying to complete something that has been given to them, a specific task, and you may need to put those type of automations in place so that you don't need the human element. That human element is not necessary, so we can go to the next step in the process, if you will. Okay, so having that life cycle helps to again have a complete iteration approach to agile development. All right. Um, you want to make sure that, again, you have all your people involved for the various phases, understanding everybody is in agreement. You may have to repeat a few steps in the iteration or in the sprints, and that's fine. That's part of it. But it's understood in the process. All right. So now we're going to talk about in the process the deployment phase of it. So the deployment phase in agile methodology. This points to where certain tasks, development, deliverables have been completed. Okay, the user stories and the development features are launched and pushed into the marketplace. It's pushed into production. It's pushed and ready for the rest of the business to utilize it. It has been UAT tested. The testers have said yes, they've signed off, they're in agreement, they're pleased with uh, what has been developed. So this part is critical. It's expected, and when developers get to this point, there's a sigh of relief because they know they've done a good job and it's been accepted, and everybody can have a great toast of champagne to say, and not literally, but theoretically, that a good job, well done, has been done for this particular project, right? And so you basically want to ensure that everything is installed properly, configured correctly. The users are basically able to adequately adapt to the particular software that has been used. You want to provide training for them, make sure that they are able to utilize the new software, the new product, the new application, whatever you've developed. Make sure that they're able to be trained and understand and not be afraid to utilize this new software. Because sometimes when it's new, never touched before, there's a certain hesitancy, there's a certain fear, they're scared to use it. What if I mess up? Or what if I look bad? What if I'm sure I'm not able to understand? Maybe what if I'm not able to catch on as fast because I had a comfortable routine before where I knew what to do. So I would work to this limit, and then I knew I would take my coffee break, and then after I take my coffee break, then I would come back to it. Then I know I would be able to complete some more tasks and some more items. Then I would be able to take another coffee break, and then just kind of do a woosah moment, and then go back to the task at hand. I don't know what this new software is going to do. I don't know this application. I don't know if I'm going to be able to take a coffee break. You still will. just like with agile methodology and technology and software and development, people need to be able to be agile, flexible, continuously growing, continuously learning, so you're not stagnant, so you're not feeling in a rut, or you're not doing enough, or you're not doing something. Okay. um, you want to be able to feel good about what you're doing, and after the training is done, then you're able to have a comfort that, you know what, I do know this, I can do this. Oh wow, I'm able to continuously work. Oh, okay. Oh, this software is good. Oh, it's going to help me understand where the marketing numbers are, where the business numbers are, where the financial numbers are. Excellent. So once that is taken in place and you're able to move forward, then you want to make sure that the environment set up from the deployment perspective phase. You want to make sure the environment is set up properly. Make sure that all the business environments that has been talked about, targeted, specified, is prepared for the deployment. The people are prepared for the deployment. So you want to do a schedule of a release date of when to expect the deployment. Now, in several projects that I've worked on, we did a release date in phases. So because the project was so large, because the application need to go across multiple departments, um, we did it in phases. And it all depends, we did it in phases because certain security measures need to be put in place, because certain, for the average user, they may just need to go and view the data. There's no admin rights. You can't touch the data. You can only go and get the numbers that you need, period. So there are certain security parameters that are being put in place so that that's all they are able to do. And then you may have another department that may be an input user. Some departments call them a power user. Okay. With the power user, they have a little bit more ability to go in, actually manipulate the data, input the data, take away certain things that is not necessary or needed. Okay. And of course, then you have your administrator where they have more access. So security is given to them more ability. And of course, you have your IT security team who has the master key for everything. So they have the security ability to manipulate, change, stop, deploy, employ certain users, access, and stuff like that. So um, that is part of it as well. So you want to make sure that you have good deployment automation, any updates that may need to come into play with software. They're always updating the data, updating features, uh, updating security parameters, updating bug fixes. Okay, so that's always in place, um, and required and expected and is needed, because you want to be able to, again, fix things as you're monitoring over time how the software, how the application is functioning, how is it working with the team, and you want to keep them happy. So as a good development team, you want to make sure that you're monitoring so you can fix any bugs that you see that they may not have seen yet. Okay. And then you send out a notification saying, hey, these bug fixes has been fixed or corrected. If it's going to take longer, you may say, hey, over the weekend, please have your team not log in and work on application A, application B, because we're going to do some bug fixes. So we'll send you an update as to when we're going to start and as to when we're going to finish. And they'll do that over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, Saturday and Sunday. And usually Monday, there'll be an email notification saying all the bug fixes, everything has been worked on, and we're good. And so with the deployment execution, that particular software deployment um, of the application, of the scripts, of the tools has been worked on. The monitoring of any errors have been worked and fixed. Any smoke testing that need to be done to ensure deployment was successful, that has been taken care of. Successful deployment software notifications to the users, again, to say that, hey, the deployment and verification has been completed and we are very much well done and everything is functioning and working as expected. Okay. Application, you want to, again, have that user training and support amongst the team members so that way you can ensure that the end users are trained and comfortable. And if there's additional training that is required, you may need to create an SOP, standard operating procedures. The current one may need to be updated. You may need to do some webinars or provide some type of user guides for that particular department. Okay, you want to offer any hands-on training if much as possible. You may have to call the vendor for the specific application to come in and utilize uh, the application and give them more in-depth training, which I've done as well by calling in the vendor to say, hey, I've done all the training that you guys have shown us. They're asking for more specific details with this particular software. Can you help us with that? They were like, sure. They brought in some extra vendors, uh, shared with myself and the managers of that department to say, hey, this is what the application can do. What we would like to do is sit down with your department in segments, in phases, every day for lunch break, a lunch and learn, and walk them through a training process, walk them through additional in-depth training process. And then at the same time, what I did was document the new training process and created a larger standard operating procedures to show them also with print screens. When you get to this screen, click on this button. This is going to take you to this particular screen. So you'll be able to see these particular features. Okay. That feedback was wonderful for myself and the team, from the vendors and from the users. So that way, again, um, I was able to continuously send out survey information, collect information from specific users, especially those that were using very crucial, critical data. And sometimes I would do interviews with them and just get just just pick their brains, if you will, and ask them different questions along with the survey that they provided, but also different things that I may not have um received from the business requirements, which is also part of the review and the maintenance. Okay. So that way I could take this back to the developers and say, hey, let's work on this for the specific team members or the specific requests and requirements for this department. Okay. So that goes into maintenance and review. So the maintenance and review phase in the Agile project management framework, basically, to keep it going is very important and is crucial. In this particular phase and focus, it's supporting the department after post development, after post deployment, right? It ensures that it remains functional, secure, and aligned with the business when they receive that particular product and application that we've developed for them according to their business requirements. So we want to make sure that the client, the business is happy. We want to make sure that what they've requested, what they've provided is what we're able to 100% deliver. And if it's been delivered properly, if it's functioning properly, everybody is a win-win situation, right? You want to keep track again of the results of how the product is working, the application is functioning. You want to identify all fixes, defects, and bugs for that has been reported for future use. That if someone else along the lines requests this type of application, you have a history of what you've done and can show when we implemented this particular product, this bug came up. And this is the fix that we did to correct the issue, even before it gets to the production area, even before it gets to the market, even before it gets to the users. You can identify it and fix it ahead of time, ahead of schedule. And again, you want to be able to provide ongoing support. You want to be able to provide continuous support to the users, to the business management, to the business owners, so that everything can continuously be a smooth process for everybody. They can continuously use it. You want to make sure that you have um, the items in place where they can ask frequently asked questions as possible. You want them to be comfortable asking questions, even with the new standard operating procedures, the user guides. Make sure that if there's any questions or queries along the way, that you can provide some good answers and good feedback. So that way, again, um, they may need continual training sessions over 6 months, over the year. Um, every month or with every quarter, provide a training update for the team, even if it's just a refresher. That's something that would be good for the team members because they may forget something once they get past using the product or the application, and from further down the line, it was like, man, how did I generate that report again? It was easy. I did it 2 months ago, but I can't remember. And then they can come back and be like, oh, that's right. Once we do the refresher course, that's right. You did say go over here in Avenue A. And then once you click on Avenue A, it's going to take you to a screen where you can see in Avenue B, where you can go ahead and generate all of these reports. You can create the reports in different functionalities of different months, of different financial categories, according to what will work well with you and for your team. And you want to continuously be able to just provide good monitoring for the business, the department. So that way, again, you keep track of this so they can be comfortable. You keep track of security updates, bug fixes. You want to continuously keep track of feature integrations. So that way, when there's new integrations um, that is an upgrade or an update, you want to keep track of that and be able to share and explain that to them. So that way, they can know that this is something completely new. It wasn't in the original software program. This is a new feature, and this is what the new feature is going to be able to allow you to do. Isn't this great? Keep it positive. Keep it strong. Keep it something that would be welcoming for them to want to do. Keep them updated as you're continuously improving the particular product, the project, the application. Keep it where you keep that particular team, business, involved with the continuation of forever improving the product. And um, as things have been produced, the product continuously evolve, continuously grows, and they are continuously happy utilizing that particular application, that particular software in their business. So I want to just kind of leave you with some of the benefits of using Agile methodology. As I've explained what it does, some of the benefits, not all, but some of the benefits is increased flexibility, adaptability, ability to be able to, several users work as a team and be able to provide their ability in the project with their priorities, different strategies, um, real time feedback, real time change requirements, real time um, change management, right? Agile methodology helps with collaboration. Again, I love working with people, working on multiple phases, working with multiple projects, working with multiple softwares. And again, that's how I get better. That's how I learn. That's how I am able to grow as an individual to help um, in my projects. Um, Communication is always important. Communicate, communicate, communicate. There's nothing wrong with it. uh, Having good product quality, testing the good quality, making sure that the business is satisfied with what you have delivered, and you want to be able to provide good quality, right? Right. So, um, also, um, with the agile benefits, I just want to share with you really quickly the agile frameworks, right? You have your Scrum, which is a structure that's help you with sprints, usually 2 to 4 weeks long, on different milestones of the project. Um, the Scrum Master, the product owner, the business development team all basically emphasize on the work that's planned and needs to be reviewed and delivered. You're going to have a Kanban, which is a structure that visualizes the workflow with using Kanban boards. Okay. Uh, this basically has columns with different stages of the process. You have a lean. The lean focuses on eliminating waste and optimizing processes for efficiency, streamlines workflows, okay, and maximizes deliverables. All right. You may have extreme programming, XP, which is uh, emphasizes technical practices such as pair programming, test driving development, and continuous integration. You want to focus on basically improving the software quality and responsiveness to changing requirements as they will come. Okay. And again, agile methodology is a powerful management approach. It's utilized to help with continuously moving forward together on multiple projects. And with these different projects and frameworks that I've shared with you, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, and Extreme Programming XP, they all basically help you with agile um, empowerment for the teams that are involved with agile methodology, with projects, with efficiency, with product quality. Okay, so that has been my tech talk on agile methodology explained. And I'll share more regarding in the next topic regarding AI utilizing these tools in a different way. So look forward to joining me on the next episode as well. But for now, thank you for joining Johnny Sanders. Thank you for joining Truth in Life. Again, hit the like button. Please subscribe to help me keep moving things forward in a good, positive light. And you know what? I look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, let's be good and let's dare to be great. See you next time.